Hey guys, Baba here with another Arcane guide. In today's guide I'll be going over how to deal optimal damage at all times. To start things off, let's go over the pros and cons of Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage is one of the highest dealing damage specs of the Mage, next to Frost. It has the ability to generate insane bursts while also dealing considerable sustain if you choose to utilise the spec this way. The pros of Arcane are as followed. It has high bursts of Arcane missiles. It has opportunities for instant bursts of Arcane Orb into Palm, Arcane Blast into the Arcane Barrage combo. It also has strong sustain when allowed to stay in melee range or free cast. However, Arcane also has its fair share of cons. These include having to hardcast Arcane missiles to be the most effective. This is troublesome with one school. Arcane also has a lot of AoE damage, so damage rotation is sometimes limited when targets stack. You don't want to be breaking your CC. 3. You have to watch mana bar due to your spells costing more with Arcane charges and this constantly fluctuates. 4. You can also be proc-reliant at times. Sometimes you just don't get those Arcane missiles and you'll be dealing a lot less damage than you want to. Overall, I would put Arcane Mage's potential burst damage as the highest of the three specs. However, its consistent damage falls behind fire and it's generally harder to pull off damage than as a Frost Mage. How Arcane deals damage. Arcane damage rotation revolves around Arcane charges. The more Arcane generals you have, capped out at 4, the more damage you deal and the more mana is spent on those abilities. Abilities that generate Arcane charges are Arcane Blast, Arcane Explosion, Arcane Missiles, and Arcane Orb, a talent you should always be specking into. Your hardest hitting ability as an Arcane Mage are your Arcane Missiles. Although these do not deal extreme damage on their own, when stacked 2 or 3 together you become a force to be reckoned with. This is largely due to the trait Rule of 3 and the talent's amplification. When using Arcane Missiles, ensure you always have 4 stacks of Arcane charges for optimal damage. Outside of bursting with Arcane Missiles, Arcane is largely based around fishing for these Arcane procs while conserving your mana wisely. Arcane can also deal considerable damage outside of Arcane Missiles via Arcane Blast spam and Arcane Explosion Barrage combos. However, missile fishing is usually the most optimal way to play. Talents. When speccing for damage, it is very important that you choose the right talents. Bear in mind that you shouldn't be moving away from these talents at all, as they are always the best in slot for dealing damage. Amplification. As mentioned earlier, increases your main damage ability by 48%. Incanter's Flow allows you to move freely compared to Rune of Power. To make the most of Incanters, try to burst with missiles when it's at 4 to 5 stacks counting up. This will allow your missiles to have 4 to 5 stacks for the entire duration. Resonance amplifies your barrage damage immensely when the enemy is stacking together, or even if they have a pet close. To get the most damage possible, I would recommend taking this most of the time. However, be aware that Supernova can be swapped in for utility against some comps. Erosion. Erosion increases all of your arcane damage abilities by flat 8% when it's at its full stacks. This allows your burst to be as high as possible, making it a lot stronger than the weak damage of Never Tempest or the RNG of Unstable Magic. Finally, Arcane Orb should always be taken, and it's not only as an easy way to generate Arcane charges, but it can also deal upwards of 400k damage in one instant global. For more information on Arcane talents, be sure to head over to our written guide, made for patch 7.3.5. Standard Opener. Mark of the Lunaf and Ring of Frost for crowd control with max damage. Arcane Mage Opener varies depending on the position and comp of your enemy. This opener assumes that the other team is either not stacking or that your target is the healer. It is important not to perform this opener if these conditions are not met, as you'll end up breaking your CC with a Lunaf's AoE. Due to having mass stealth, your ideal opener consists of moving into an aggressive position with greater invisibility, landing a Ring of Frost with mass stealth, and casting Mark of the Lunaf with the remainder of your stealth. This opener is the most ideal as your mark allows you to build full erosion stacks, is not able to be kicked, and ensures you have a great burst damage in the first setup. Following your Mark of Alunith cast, you should aim to land your Arcane Orb on as many targets as possible to build your Arcane charges to full. I would also recommend applying slow here if there is not one present from your partners, so your Alunith's explosion is affected by Torment the Weak. Finally, depending on how many interrupts and how much pressure you think you can generate in the opener, I'd recommend using your 2-pom Arcane Blast into a barrage to finish the setup. In this opener, I would often recommend holding on to Arcane Power. This is because you're likely to proc Concordance in the opener, and the burst from Pom/Alunith is generally enough to force a cooldown you want, although saying there's sometimes APing in the opener will land you the kill. Standard Opener 2, Poly/Ring, Arcane Orb and Poms. This opener assumes your enemy is stacking, thus marking is not available. This opener is strong versus teams who have interrupts who are forced to deal damage with instants. Due to casting Arcane Blast 3 times and Orb in this opener, it is very likely you'll be able to gain Arcane Missile procs early on with this rotation. Standard Opener 3, Mark of Alunith out of Stealth. This opener is great when you're aiming to kill the healer on the other team. In this clip we choose to open on the Shaman so I can hit Alunith/AP and Poms. This allows us to force CDs instantly. And open number 4, the uncommon opener, the Mass Invis Breaks. Sometimes you'll get caught out of your stealth, be it Shadow Crash from an SP or Flare from a Hunter. In these scenarios, falling back to your pillar is often the best course of action. While you're at the pillar, you're able to spam Arcane Blast from safety, generating Arcane Missiles before the opposing team pushes in. While these openers will lack the stealth CC, you can often force pressure by Blast/Missile spam and engage on Blink counterspell. In this matchup, I want to hold my stealth for their pop since it is turbo and they are very rotated around that 1 minute CD pop. Therefore, building up my missiles before engaging is the optimal choice for our opener, as I will be able to engage with more damage than they are able to put out. During your downtime, it is important to conserve your mana while trying to fish for Arcane Missile procs. Your downtime will vary depending on if you're a target for the enemy team, or if you're against a more passive casting comp rather than a melee cleave. Although there are 2 different methods of generating damage, there are 3 constants. Arcane Orbing on cooldown. Arcane Orb costs very little mana and is a great way to generate a hard-hitting barrage. Coupled with the chance to proc an Arcane Missile, this is your best filler ability. Maintaining slow. Due to your Torment the Weak talent, you should be aiming to keep your slow up at all times, be it through Chrono Shift or just regular slow. Slow is also a great peel, so the benefits is both offensive and defensive. Releasing missiles on adequate stacks. Arcane missiles deal damage fast, thus building them up to at least 2 or 3 stacks before releasing is generally the best move. Be aware that every time you gain a missile proc, the buff duration is refreshed, so you shouldn't be too scared to sit on them for a while to build up to more charges. Arcane Explosion downtime. When playing against 2x melees or teams with multiple interrupts, Arcane Explosion should be your go-to generator. Make sure you're maintaining Chrono Shift slow on the DPS by barraging every 5 seconds, this will prevent you from going and give you the damage modifier. Remember that Arcane Explosion radius is 14 yards, you should be looking to dead zone your opponent while kiting. Melees should not be able to hit you while you are spamming Arcane Explosion. Free casting downtime. Free casting Arcane Blast with Arcane Power will net you a huge amount of DPS. With each Arcane Blast having a potential million crit and with a 90% bonus for proccing missiles, it should be your go-to when your partners are getting tunneled. When free casting, you can deal upwards of 600k DPS and pretty much hard carry your team to victory with the amount of Arcane missiles you'll be generating. Okay, so that's it for our Arcane Mage damage guide. To bring it to a close, here are the top 5 takeaways to remember. To conserve mana and deal efficient damage, release your arcane charges at 2 stacks consistently. Remember to utilise your Alunith and Evocation to optimise the amount of damage you can use. Make sure your kill target is slowed to benefit from the Torment the Weak talent. That's a 15% damage bonus that you can't be missing out on. Seize every opportunity to freecast. This will give you an insane amount of arcane missiles from the Arcane Blast. Only release missiles and 4 stacks of Arcane charges to deliver your full potential damage. Arcane missiles is your hardest hitting ability. Alright, that's it for this guide. I'm Gelly Baba, and I'll see you next time.